Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in this episode we're going to be working on the Mossberg 500 furniture. I picked this set up on eBay. It is a used set of furniture, but it serves the purpose that I need it to. So what came in the kit is the pump action with a vertical grip and the original factory polymer stock. It does come with the butt pad and hardware, and the long bolt that goes through the original stock. So far my plans are to basically get this vertical grip, chop it down, reprofile it, and make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, as well as more my style. This is just something I came up with. I don't know how it's gonna turn out, but we will find out. So without any further ado, let's get to it. I'll see you again in the dark side. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is I want to remove these rails, the action bars itself. So let me find the right bit that's going to work with this guy so that we can get this party started. Alright, too big. That's the guy. Alright, so quick tip, whenever I'm working on firearms or I'm working on a project, try to keep organized. Last thing you need is to lose these specialty screws, and then you either end up having to make them or find them some way somehow, which becomes kind of difficult sometimes. So keep a box of baggies. I literally have a little box of different baggies that stuff comes in. When I order them, I just keep the baggies around for projects. That way you can keep everything organized, you don't lose anything. Obviously this will not fit in there, but you know, just keep the small parts together, make life easier. Alright, and then get a piece of masking tape, get these two big pieces that won't fit in any other bag, and just tape them together. I mean, it's that simple. The point is, try to keep everything together to make the project go a lot smoother at the end of the day, because you're not going to misplace any parts. Just tape it up, toss it aside till you need it, and then when you need to reassemble anything, you just get your parts all together. Everything's going to flow a lot easier. Just a little tip. Alright, so now to chop down the vertical grip to make it a stubby, my game plan is basically eyeballing this. I'm gonna mask it off with some masking tape just to create the borderline where I want to cut. Once I cut, I'm going to reprofile, round it off so it can look a little bit nicer, and we'll go from there. So let me mask the edges off where I want to do my cut line, and I'll come back into the shot so you guys can see how I'm gonna go about on cutting this. Alright, so for the most part, this is my cut line. I basically want to take it all the way around, eliminating those two bottom notches, or finger grooves, and then I will reprofile the back so that I can get more of a swooping motion, so it looks more rounded like the factory. Hopefully I can some way somehow mold it so that I can reuse the bottom insert cover a little higher up and make it look like it came that way. I mean, that's the definite goal on this little project, is to make it seem like it was purchased that way, you know. So let's get into it. Let's start chopping. Alright, so what I plan on doing is using a flush cut saw. I've got the grip set up on a vise. I try to put it as vertical as possible so I can make straight cut down. So I'm gonna go ahead and use one of these wood flush cut saws and see how that works out. I've never tried that on polymer, but I'm hoping for the best. So let's try this. I mean, it's working, but it's gonna take a while, so bear with me. Alright, so we got our vertical grip cut down. It's a stubby now. So now I need to reprofile it more to my sketch. Alright, and the good thing about this is there's a lot of meat on this polymer vertical grip. So I mean, I got a good amount to shave and reprofile. So I'm happy with that. I didn't think it was gonna be that thick, so this is just gonna make my life a lot easier. I don't have to fill it in with any polymer or anything, just so I can be able to shave and profile. The other good thing is that I can reuse the original bottom cap. I just need to open up the hole a little bit larger, but I can profile it and I can use the factory cap again, so that's a plus. For the most part right now, I'm going to be doing the reprofiling, so I'm trying to make it look as pleasing as possible. I mean, I want it to have a good flow to it, so it's basically playing. It's basically trial and error from this point on. I've never done this before, so I mean it's finding a good medium between looks and functionality. So let's start shaping. Alright, so the first thing I want to tackle on the reshaping process is I want to fit the bottom cap to the vertical stubby in order to make sure I have enough material when I start shaping the exterior of it to profile it to what I want. I want to make sure there's enough meat around it so I don't make this weak. So the first thing I want to do is I want to fit this cap, and then once this gets fitted, then I can reprofile around it, because I can make sure that I'm leaving enough material around the cap so it can still have its stability. So what I am going to do is I will position the cap as center as possible to the already opened hole, and then I will use a sharp scribe and just scribe around my cap so I know how much material I need to remove from the already existing hole in order to sorry if you guys can't see this, but I just want to make this as tight as possible because it's easy to remove material, but not so easy to put it back on. So we want to remove a little bit at a time and test fit until we get this to go in properly as the factory one did. Alright, so to widen this hole up, I'm going to use my rotary tool, and together with the rotary tool I will be using a double cut carbide burr. Alright, so this is more of a roughing burr. It is carbide because most of these polymers have glass embedded into it to give it its strength and rigidity. So carbide is a good idea. It keeps sharper longer. This is more of a hogging bit, so it will remove a lot of material at once. I will speed it up on the video so you guys can watch and not be bored at the same time. Got our edge chamfered. We got to clean up that face later, but we still got to reprofile. And now that to me that's money. That right there is money. On point. So now I can reprofile based on my grip. What I do like about this polymer is it's a lot softer and easier to cut than your standard polymer. I like it. It's gonna make this job a lot easier. We got a good fitting cap now. So now let's clean up our workbench. I hate working in clutter, and we'll move on from there. Give me a minute. Alright, so we got a clean bench. I'm happy. Alright, so now reprofiling time. So let me see. So we got this guy in, and I have a lot of room to play with. So for the most part, alright. Cap is pretty tight, but that's good. So I am going to eyeball this and reprofile to what I am feeling. Alright, let's get to it. Alright, so we finished profiling our stubby, and as you can see, it leaves a rough surface when we use that double cut carbide. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use various grits of sandpaper. I cut little strips off and I use that to smooth everything out, but I like to do so using water as my lubrication. I don't like sanding dry. It doesn't sand as good as when you wet sand polymer. So I'll go through various grits, sanding just to get everything smooth, and we'll go on from the next step. So for the most part, you could start off with, let's say, 120 grit and work your way up to 1000 or 1500 just to get it really smooth. So just take it to where you feel comfortable, to what your needs are. Me, I'm going to try to get it as smooth as possible. If I can't get it to exactly what I want, I'm going to end up Cerakoting it. So I'll probably bead blast it, or sandblast it, sorry, and coating it again if I can't get that texture that I'm looking for. So let's get to it. So I'm going to start off with a 100 grit. All right. See if this focuses. So I'm going to start off with a piece of 100 grit sandpaper. And dump it in the water. Let it get wet. A little bit more pliable. And I'm going to start then to sand. Now all I'm trying to do is just even out this surface. Going back in the water just to clear it every once in a while. Your polymer will start looking ashy. That's normal. But what I just want to do is I want to even up my surface so it can look cleaner and more of a factory feel, like if it was molded that way to begin with. And that's my whole goal with this project, is I want people to see it and ask, hey, where do you get that grip at? Thinking that it's something that you can just buy off the shelf. So this is a tedious process. You guys get the picture. Just work your way through the grits until you get the appearance that you're going for. So I will not bore you guys with sanding video. So I will see you when I get to the last grit. Alright guys, so I finished smoothing everything out and I got the radius the way that I wanted it. Everything's nice and smooth. My cap is fitting right, so I'm happy with that. I already went ahead and did the outlines on my grip, so that way I can start my stippling process so I can texture it. What I normally use to do the outlines is very simple. I either use masking tape and create the lines that I want, all right, and then just stipple around that very carefully, and it gives you a pretty straight and sharp edge. The other method that I use is a straight edge ruler. So I'll put two connecting points, use a flexible ruler to contour to the shape that you're trying to go for, and use the soldering iron to create that straight line. There's also ways where you get a carbide bit and you start creating the lines with the rotary tool. That method works as well. You know, whatever makes this job easier for you, go that route. This is my way of doing it. I find it the simplest. Straight edge and soldering iron. What I use for soldering iron is this short tip weller. Okay, there's a bunch of companies that make these soldering irons or wood burners. Choose the one that best suits your needs. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Just crisp lines, nice edges. That's what's gonna make the job look at its best. There's nothing worse than a stippling job or a texturing job and lines that are all wonky. It throws off the work completely. So I'm gonna fast forward this video. I'm gonna fill in my areas with the texturing, and I will check back in with you guys. Alright guys, so now we're gonna start with the stock. Alright guys, so we're done texturing. Sorry I didn't have more footage of me actually doing the texturing. It gets kind of uncomfortable in certain angles when you try to do this, and it's hard to film at the same time that you're trying to do the job. But it's pretty straightforward. As long as you take your time, go slow, you'll get it right. Like I said before, border work is everything. If you get nice borders, everything else is going to look great on that. Just take your time doing the border so everything else goes as smooth and looks good accordingly. So next episode, we will be tackling the refinishing of the receiver barrel and magazine tube. I'm most likely going to do some hydrographics on that. So I'm going to show you guys the process on how that's done. For this one, we're pretty much done. We textured our stock, textured our foregrip. You know, we chopped it down, we modified it, made it to our liking. So yeah, I mean, stay tuned for the next episode. As always, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button so you can keep up to date on all the videos that we released. And I will leave a link down below in the description on all the tools and equipment that we used in this video. In case you guys decide you want to tackle a job like this or something similar, you can do so. So, as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.